All right, you want to talk about this whole thing with Denuvo?
All right. Recently, and I don't know when this actually happened exactly, but Denuvo created a Discord server, sort of to act as a bit of, I guess you could say, PR or public, or yeah, just like some PR. So that way they can interact with PC gamers. PC gamers can interact with them. You know, maybe have some good time. Have a few laughs. Well, shortly after that Discord server went up, it got shut down because they received, as they put it, inappropriate content, and that led to let me Andreas Ullman. Let me make sure I have that last name right. Who serves as the spokesperson for Denuvo? Make sure, yeah, Andreas Ullman, who also acts as a product manager, and he said that this is the result of toxicity from PC gamers, and essentially he said that they will not stop letting every claim about our product being Denuvo go unanswered, and even saying that, talking about the community, it's basically really about the stuff that's posted by the community. You just need to check out Steam forums, for example. Very toxic, very hostile environments. He claims that he doesn't want to leave the floor to these people, being PC gamers, who are posting all things about them anymore. And he even went on to deflect for cases like Resident Evil Village and Tekken 7, saying that due to something with the source code for Tekken 7 or due to other protection measures that were not related to Denuvo, and that's the reason why there were performance issues going on for that. And he said that what's the last thing here that he mentioned? He said that, oh man, what was this? There's a very good part. Yes, saying about piracy, and saying that our solution simply works. Pirates cannot play games which are using our solution over quite long time periods, usually until the publisher decides to patch out our solution. And he says that there's a huge community of players who are not willing to part with the cash to play the games they went to, and quote, therefore they have a lot of time to spend in communities and share their view and try to blame Denuvo. End quote. Now, I obviously have some stuff to say, but I really want you to go out there before I start being toxic.
Well, well, well. So this is like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. I think I had something on the tip of my brain earlier and I've already forgotten it, but Denuvo. Okay, well, first of all, I do want to say the argument of piracy. This is like the PlayStation fanboys arguing against PC gamers argument. This is like, hey, they just want to pirate everything. That's what it is. Brah. They don't want to because they didn't want to be pirates. Brah. But that's not it at all. Because when Denuvo causes such severe performance issues on these games, it's like people who want to spend the money on the games getting worse performance than people who pirate the games. Or people having to find ways to crack their purchased versions of the games so that they don't have to deal with the terrible stuff with Denuvo. It's just like the meme goes, from The Simpsons. Is it me that's mistaken? No, it's the kids that are wrong. And like, they just have no self-awareness whatsoever, and they assume that, oh, everybody just wants to pirate these games. And it's like, no, we just want to be able to play the game without losing a bunch of performance. We don't want our games to perform like trash because you happen to add this for people who were never going to buy your game in the first place. And then most of the time, Denuvo gets cracked. People get free of it completely, and then they wonder why people want to pirate their games. It's like, Denuvo is terrible. I mean, I remember there was that point, I'm pretty sure it was with Denuvo, when for a little bit Monster Hunter Rise just stopped working altogether. It just wasn't working at all because of whatever they put in, whether it was Denuvo or something else. I'm pretty sure it was Denuvo. And once they did whatever they needed to do to fix it, then it started working again. And of course, as the example that you gave in your video that you just put out today, Monster Hunter Wilds, the requirements to get 60 frames per second on medium settings requires using upscaling. And yes, probably some of that is a matter of laziness, but probably a lot of it is because Denuvo is completely tanking the performance. And oh, I know. So Denuvo complaining about gamers being toxic is like an IRS agent going around wondering why people don't like them. It's like, you're actively stealing from me, so you wonder why I don't like you. And that's essentially what Denuvo is doing, is they're stealing a good, solid amount of performance in a game by adding DRM that makes it perform worse. It's like, you're ripping me off with this nonsense. I don't think I have anything else to say on the matter, though. I think that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that analogy. I love that. That really fits Denuvo perfectly to a T. And also, just thinking about this now for additional context with Monster Hunter Wilds, the recommended settings that get you the 1080p 60 FPS with, as you mentioned, upscaling frame generation enabled, it requires an RTX 2070 or an RTX 4060, or on the AMD side, RTX 4060 or RTX 2070. Oh, I'm sorry, Super, not just a base 2070 Super, base 2070 Super, or an AMD RX 6700 XT. So, and then of course you have the CPUs being an Intel i5 11600K, or something like a Ryzen 5 3600X. So these aren't some budget PCs. Like, these are pretty reasonably decent, powerful PCs, and you need them to get 1080p 60 FPS on medium settings with frame generation, and then you want to slap Denuvo on top of that?
Yeah.
That is a recipe for disaster right there. And I mean, I wish these publishers realized that you're going to, if people wanted to pirate their game, they're going to pirate the game. No Denuvo is going to say, oh man, guys, I would have pirated this game, but there's Denuvo, so now I'm not going to buy it. I can't, I don't want to, I don't want to have to pirate the game now. No, if they, like you said, they pirate the game, if they want to, if they're going to do that, they're going to do it anyway. But if they want to get better performance out of the game, it's better to play the pirated version of the game, buy the game and then get a cracked version or crack it themselves, and then they can get the better performance, which I don't see how they're not putting two and two together. And, again, as you mentioned, outside of just the fact that of the performance issues, Denuvo has done other stuff. Like, I covered this several years ago, but there was a period, I think this was over a weekend, or if not longer than that, Denuvo servers were not working correctly. So because of that, every game that had Denuvo on it would not run. Like, you could not play your games if it had Denuvo because of the servers. And you wonder why people hate Denuvo. It's the fact that they have a stranglehold on your games. Like, and that's another reason, is the fact that if a game has Denuvo on it, you truly can't say you own it, just because of the fact that you have that DRM baked in there. So unless the publisher decides to remove Denuvo later on, which many of them do, you know, you're pretty much strong armed into a lose-lose situation. And so it's really interesting that Denuvo tries to paint themselves in a good light, acting as if they're a martyr and, they're just being wrongfully persecuted by the hateful PC masses, who are just so toxic. And I'm just like, you made this toxic situation. You came in here no one asked to have this in their game. Someone said, man, you know what I would really love right now? If my game had performance issues in it. Because, you know what, I really cannot stand the fact that my game is running well right now. I really hate this. I wish that someone would come along and make my games run horribly. And I wish that if something ever happened to a server, I would not be able to play these games. I wish someone would invent a solution to that right now. Denuvo? Why, thank you. This is exactly what I wanted. Like, no, we didn't ask for this. And I wish that more publishers would see this. Like, of course, some publishers, especially if you're on the indie end, you understand and you're like, you really want to, be on the good side of gamers. And, especially if you're an indie dev who is a gamer yourself, you understand why gamers don't like DRM in the game. So there are publishers who, release their games even on Steam without DRM on them because they are like, yeah, I mean, if people are going to pirate the game, they're going to pirate the game anyway. But, I'm not going to ruin their fun and also have that possibly impact my sales because I am concerned about piracy. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I really just wish that more publishers were of this mindset. Now, like, on one hand, I will partially agree with the Denuvo anti-cheat. Like, if you're playing a multiplayer game, having some sort of anti-cheat in place is understandable because, you don't want cheaters messing up an experience for everyone. But with the single player games, though, having an anti-tamper, having some sort of DRM is not going to make things fun for us. So, yeah. That's. I mean, I feel like I would just keep going in circles at this point. But yeah, I'm proud to be one of the toxic gamers that Denuvo says I am.
Indeed. Yeah, I don't have any other thoughts either.